Good evening, everybody, and welcome to CantinaMX Football Podcast. We are back with another live stream episode on YouTube, so head over there and feel free to interact with us. We have a lot to cover tonight. Tigres make history with Mexico being the first CONCACAF team to reach the Club World Cup final. Chivas surprise León on the road, and some more Matias Chile rumors. But before we go any further, let me introduce Joel. Joel, how we doing?
Hola, Jaime. I'm after that big win, that big Chivas win. I'm doing fine. I want to say I always believed in Buse, or in Buse I trust. And I think I'm excited for Tigres. Um, I've been saying it for I think the past 2 years. We've been saying it here. Like that Equipo Chico meme. One day, it's not gonna be a meme anymore. They keep getting results and important wins. It starts adding to their, you know, it's the type of thing that makes them become a big team, because even if they don't win the FIFA Clubs World Cup, they got a major win defeating the Libertadores champions, Palmeiras.
Absolutely. Yeah. For those that are trying to catch up here, before our last episode, Tigres had already made their way to Qatar, and we had talked about how Noel Guzman making his comments about, everyone clinging onto our tits because, we're representing Mexico. We're not representing Mexico. We're representing ourselves. And Tigres ended up beating Ulsan, the Asian Tigres, 2-1. Both goals by Gignac, one by penalty and then the other one in play. Then they ended up playing Palmeiras, like you mentioned, the Libertadores
Yeah,
champions that had just been crowned champions like a couple of days before, beating Santos in the 99th stoppage time. And they ended up being them. Uh, and it was Gignac again. He's got 3 goals in 2 games.
yeah, yeah, man. The French marksman. Um, but it's no Mexican club had made it that far, and now Tigres is in the final, so it's good representation, and let's see how they do against Bayern, who made the final. So let's see at this point, if they just put up a really good match, I think they would have done everyone proud. But we're talking about, so Tigres, they are um the company that backs, because Tigres is they're the university, they're with the Universidad
Nuevo León.
Autónoma Nuevo León, yeah. But then they also are managed by Sinergia Deportiva, which is like a company that is owned by Cemex. So we've talked about Cemex being the number 2 company in the world of cement.
That's right.
And I think it's construction material in the whole world. I mean,
Mm,
that's massive. Not in Mexico, but the whole world. And so the Team Tigres has, I mean, they could easily afford to bring in 2 more Gignacs if they wanted to. Um, but the big news, and this was, I think, in December. I can't remember, but um, they renewed um with the team for 30 more years. So
oh, that's
Tigres
right.
is gonna be they're gonna be well funded for 30 more years. And one thing we were talking about a while back, because we were talking about how the Monterrey teams they've become pretty dominant. So if we look at the liguilla and the amount of times both teams have been in finals, or not just winning but even losing,
Just participating,
it
yeah.
it's quite a few. And then Monterrey even went on a streak of winning Conca champions. They won like four. But I mean, these teams have become pretty strong, and the argument has been, well, we've seen it with Toluca and Pachuca and whatnot, and yeah, we have, but the big difference here is that Cemex for Tigres and FAMSA, I think I'm saying it right. Hope I'm not saying it wrong. FAMSA for Monterrey, and FAMSA is also number two in the world of distribute soft drinks. And I think they manage the distribution of Coca-Cola in Mexico,
Yeah, I think we
which
had
is,
mentioned that before. Yeah.
yeah, big reason they could bring in Aguirre and pay him top dollar. And so, these two teams getting, well, Monterrey already has their stadium, and Tigres is about to build one. So, I mean, I do think these teams, if they stay on course on this path, they will definitely be up there, man. They will catch up or surpass the likes of Chivas and America. Just because, man, the saying "con dinero baila el perro," they can afford to field these really strong teams, and we've seen a bit of a decline with some of the other grandes and Cruz Azul going on a 20-year, what is it, 21 now or something? Rise,
1997. So yeah, it's
yeah,
been a minute.
of not being able to win the league. Uh, Chivas, they every 10 years at that pace, they're bound to be surpassed. And then Ame, which they're still very competitive and very strong, but I think they just haven't been as dominant. I'm not saying the other two, but dominant enough where they're gonna pull away from the pack. I do think they will stay in the fight. Um, and I don't know about Chivas because Chivas just needs to do double the work, man, double the lift. But that's if things, landscapes always change. But if they stay the way they are now in the next 10 years, that's what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, it's very true. I think we're at an interesting time in Liga MX, and it really is. The teams that have the most money are the ones that are statistically winning more titles,
Yeah.
more
Well,
championships.
and we see it in Europe, Jaime,
Yeah.
these what happened in like EPL once it became, because the English league, I forgot what it was called, and in 1991 they rebranded, they became the English Premier League, and that's when you saw the rise of some of these teams like Chelsea and Manchester United, and then just most recently Manchester City, where you had all this money, these owners that came in with lots of money and built these super strong teams, and that could happen in Mex. Well, it's kind of happening, not to that extent, because they're not spending those massive amounts of money.
Yeah, it got rebranded as the Premier League back in '92, and that's when Manchester United just took over. Except for that one weird year where Blackburn Rovers won. Um, and yeah, it's just the influx of cash. Look at Man City. Man City they were a bottom feeder team. I mean, they were relegation bound. But somebody saw an opportunity. Like, yo, Manchester's such a huge city. Like, imagine if we were to put a lot of money into this club, we can turn them into world beaters, and it's crazy how that's. I mean, look at Tottenham as well. Tottenham they're not really known as a big club. There's like an ongoing joke that like, look at their trophy cabinet, it's empty. But I mean, they have a brand new stadium, and they have a lot of big names now, and they're now considered part of they bought their way into the big six. It's just crazy. And if you think about the landscape for Mexico right now, that's kind of like what Monterrey and Tigres have done, because they're not historically known as big clubs, but
No,
they've bought their way into the now there's a top
yeah,
six. You know what I mean? Now they're considered
yeah,
big
and
names.
the funny thing was the Tigres Clásico, the Monterrey Clásico used to be pretty much to see who the worst team was. because these teams used to, as you said, fight relegation or end up near the bottom. So they would fight to see who was, at least we beat you type of thing. And it's grown far beyond that. It's one of the main, it's one of the big clásicos now.
One thing that you mentioned about the whole 30-year thing that I do want to point out is that they also mentioned that they want to continue to sustain players of first caliber, but also remodel the stadium in the next couple of years, which would be nice. And I just want to give this little moment an appreciation for Gignac. I think he's it's just such a how can you not be romantic about football, especially in Mexico, when you have a player who, was at his really, he was a big name in France. He was in Marseille and
Yeah,
for
seleccionado.
yeah, for Tigres to sign him at his level, at his age, at the time, it was impressive. And then for him to fall in love with Mexico and embrace the culture and even wife up a Mexican chick and have kids. And it's like, this is what
Oh wait, he
this,
did? I thought he came married.
I think his wife's Mexican, man.
I thought I thought his kids were just one of them, or maybe two. Let's ask Wikipedia. Go on, Jaime.
I don't
Go
know,
on.
man. A wife of French, Deborah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have enough cheese, man. Maybe she's not. I don't know. I have no idea. But I mean, whole point is like he's these are the type of signings that this league needs to have. He's been one of the best signings I think of all time for Mexico. I think at least up there, man.
Yeah, at least in the modern era, I would
Yeah.
say it has.
I mean,
But yeah, in the past, there's been others.
yeah,
The Chileno, the Reynoso for America, and then for Pumas was Cavino. But we're going back, dude.
yeah.
We're
Those
going
are
back to the 80s, man.
yeah,
So yeah, in the modern time,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
easily, dude, easily, yeah.
and what he's done
Eclipse.
for the club and again putting the team on his back in this Club World Cup and taking him to a final. I mean, that's not too many players can do that.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, they are going to square off against Bayern Munich. They had a pretty easy time against Al Ahly. Really not much of a fight there. It was kind of a weird year for Club World Cup because, like we mentioned, New Zealand withdrew from the tournament, which basically gave a lot of these clubs like a bye or whatever. And Tigres, I think, had a pretty easy road to the final. Usually in the semis is when Mexico will play against the European team. So for them to play the Comebol team was really refreshing. And it caused a lot of controversy, because everybody on Twitter is saying like, "Hey man, like look, we've been saying this for a long time. Y'all don't want us in Libertadores anymore cuz if you do, we're going to win that tournament and that's why you guys don't want us in there." And a lot of South Americans are a little salty right now, because they're like, "What have you guys done? What do you guys have achieved? You guys aren't allowed to talk about football cuz you guys don't have a World Cup yet." So, it's been pretty spicy on Twitter, but do you think that, the power, not the power has shifted, but like Mexico has become a little bit more competitive, even in like, CONMEBOL's like space?
Wait, what was the last thing you said?
Well,
Con-
I'm just thinking like Mexico is like becoming more and more of a competitive, country. And if we were to, re-participate in these Libertadores,
oh yeah, yeah.
I think that
I mean,
we might take their
yeah,
money.
we saw Tigres reaching the final when you know, one of the last times that it was Mexico was still playing. And so I do think teams like Monterrey and even Tigres, if they wanted to, if they set that as the goal, they're like, you know what, we're going to win this tournament, they could achieve it. And we talked about how we've seen teams in South America like, what was it, Emelec, Olympia, some of the lower, it's not always the big the big Boca Juniors or the Flamengo, these more traditional South American sides aren't always, because even those strong teams end up getting weak when they get they get plundered by the top Euro teams. They'll have like a really good squad, and then they end up losing their players because they end up leaving to Europe. And so I think that's the difference where Mexican clubs can hold on to those squads for longer. And but I do think that's the possibility. And it's 3 times. It's been pretty close. Cruz Azul lost on penalties. And I think Tigres, and surprised because I had friends in Argentina, and they were telling me they saw, friends, River Plate fans, they were telling me they saw Tigres as favorites, and that was a first for me because that just never happened before, especially going up against some of these historic teams. They would never view the Mex team as being better, but I think there's been some big results throughout the years, like when Chivas, handed Boca Juniors their ass 4-0,
Oh yeah,
and so where it's like it's changed perception of what mixed teams are capable of.
absolutely. The final will take place on Thursday at 10 a.m. Be there or be square. Do you think Tigres have the support of Mexico? Or
Yeah, no, I do think they do. Um, the guy that was talking shit is he's Argentine, so I don't think he got taken that serious, as if it would have been like Tuca saying it or one of the Mexican internationals. One of them did say, I think it was the defender, and his name skips my mind. He did say about how if Tigres wins in Mex, they're not gonna give them credit, and he's kind of right. But I feel that because just what it means and the prestige that it would bring to the league, I think I don't think there will be that hate. Maybe from their Monterrey, from Rayados, but not
yeah,
not all Mex fans. I've seen a lot of support from non Tigre fans. That of course because it elevates the league. It makes the league look better.
it's putting a spotlight on the league. A lot of, I bet you, like 90% of the people that are gonna watch that final be like, "Who the fuck is Tigres? Who the fuck are these guys?" Like what? Because they're so used to seeing a South American team in the final, and
Yeah, and
they're not used to seeing a Central American team. Ah,
but
that's what they call
and
us, Central Americans.
yeah, and mostly the English. But I think, and that's when they'll start writing articles, and that's where having the Guignac plays the big, you know, a big. It takes an important role there, where it's like it helps with the spotlight, and it's like I think that it just gives them a bit more juice that some of the international magazines can. There's this one player that they could easily identify, and they usually will write the story around it. So it's a Gignac plus 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tigres have already made history. Already, no matter if they win or lose, they're already in the highest place that a Mexican team has ever finished in. Monterrey had third place, Necaxa had third place, but no one's ever disputed a final. So, history in the making. It's going to be pretty entertaining to see Diego Reyes defend Lewandowski. I put it in the thumbnail of this video. Lewandowski's just this huge, ripped, Polish dude, and then Diego Reyes is a freaking, straw man. He's just so skinny, and
I did see that,
he
man.
went to Europe, and for some reason
He
they
was been
didn't.
eating, dude.
There's a reason he probably came back because they couldn't physically train him. He's like, man, this guy's.
And you know what? This is a good segue into what Hans Westerhoff was saying.
Hans Westerhoff said, "Al jugador mexicano no le gusta trabajar." Translation: the
Yes.
Mexican player doesn't like to work. Joel, go on.
Yeah, man, and it's some of this is extra cancha, because one of the things he mentioned was when he was at Chivas or Pachuca, where asked he asked them he asked the youth players, how many of you would like to play in Europe? And he said they all lift their hands. And he asked them, how many of you are, studying English? And then no one lifted their hands. And he's like, those are the things you need. And, obviously English is one of the more common languages, and it helps you communicate, uh, over there, especially when you're going to be in teams where they all, players are bound to speak different languages. And so it helps to speak more than one. Hans speaks like four or five.
Wow.
He's, yeah, he speaks Dutch and Spanish and English and I don't know if German, but he speaks like four or five languages. So and I think that's one of the things. And the other one is of course the physical, the just to get in that to be in that better shape, um, yoke up a bit because it's physically very competitive sport. So yeah, I think in that's some of the stuff he was talking about, where you need to put more and he gave a good example of Hector Reynoso. I really like that because this is the good thing about it. So it's this article, Jaime, it's on ESPN, is it?
Yeah, it's on ESPN.
Yeah.
I'll figure out a
It,
way to link it to the listeners.
yeah, it's a really good if you guys want to read it because it's one of those articles where you get a kind of a peek behind the curtains where we rarely get these stories. And he's talking about when he was at Chivas, and Hector Reynoso asks him, "What do I have to do to be in the first team?" And Hans is like, "It's not very
You
likely,
need
dude.
to
You're
pray
too
to
slow."
Jesus.
He's like, "You're too slow, man. Massa and Salcido are way faster, and I just don't see it." And he said how after training he started practicing sprints to improve his speed. And so he went on to talk about how because of his attitude, even though Reynoso wasn't that talented of a player, he had a long career. And Reynoso even made it to the national team. I don't know if you remember, Jaime,
Of course I
but
do.
they
He
took him to the Gold Cup,
he came to
and
save our
he
ass
ended
when
up
who got injured or who got red
Salcido,
carded?
Salcido it was. I
Oh, that's
mean,
right.
the guy he couldn't bench, and he ended up
Yeah, had a
because Mex was
great.
losing, I believe.
Yeah,
They
he had
were
a
losing 2-0. It was the big turnaround game, if
yeah
I'm not mistaken.
the 4-2
Um,
flip. Yeah,
yeah, and well, that's big, man. I think that was huge for him to at least be able to do that and win that with the national team. But especially for a player that's not, as Hans said, it's not
limited.
very talented.
Yeah,
Yeah, to have a long playing career and then make it to the national team and at least win a trophy. And he said it was his attitude. He had the right attitude, and so yeah, we see it with some of the players trophies, where it's
yeah.
like
He
they're
he,
lacking that.
he mentioned Bofo. He said, he's super talented, but his attitude was poor, and that's why he didn't go to Europe. And he said that, hey, this is the responsibility of the coach, but it's also the responsibility of the front office and the federation. And he said that the classification for these, or like what's the word? It's like the requirements are just very poor in Mexico. He says they're not enough, that they need to have higher, standards and higher
Yeah,
qualification, and that makes sense.
it's
Um,
yeah, I agree.
I think it's very very what's the word, like um there's a big learning curve when Europeans or just foreigners that are not familiar with the culture in Mexico, when they come here and they see how everything's a little bit the way business is done in Mexico is a lot different. It's hijo de papi, it's who you know, and it's not very logical. um and it goes against like what would be the logical or the right way to do things, when it comes to like the youth and how they don't give them enough
Yeah,
opportunities, and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and well, yeah, and that's the other thing he mentioned to me that really when he talked about how when he was at Chivas, that Vergara had like a committee, um, and that they came up to him and they were trying to impose players on him or tell him who not to line up. And he said that's why he ended up you know, having to leave the club because he just
Interesting.
wasn't cool with that. And but yeah, we see that. I think that's what affects because uh, you know in a lot of times the Mex clubs they're not just the way the money that the teams are funded. So I think that's how you end up having people come in and have like a say in the team. So for example, when Promotora was running Chivas, you know, there was probably people linked with Promotora and they would be allowed to play coach for a day. Same thing that Higuera did when Higuera came in, and he came to Chivas as CEO of Fountain Life. He has nothing to do with the club, but he came in and he's trying to tell Nestor, no, it was Chepo, like hey man, he's trying to give him directions, and then he goes to he's trying to run the club even though he wasn't involved in any of the runnings.
Yeah, what's that saying? Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. It's like
Yes.
had too many people trying to have this power trip, or it's just too much, man. And you need to learn how to delegate, starting with the old owner Vergara. I think he stepped in the way of the team way too many times. When it's like, yo, you're the owner, man. You're supposed to know how to like hire the right people to do those jobs. You're not supposed to play coach out there. Um, and his son, I mean, his son wanted to be a movie guy, director, producer, and stuff. So I think his interests are a little bit divided at least. But while we're on the topic of Chivas, they had a surprising result last night against Leon. They played on Monday. They were the last fixture of match day 5, and they were on the road. Leon had 31 games at home without tasting defeat. And by golly, Guadalajara came in there. They put their pants in, and they just, boom, they went in there. They were up 2-0. And then an own goal by Antonio Brizueño made it 2-1. And then Alejandro Mayorga stepping in for Miguel Ponce ended up scoring the third satisfying goal. And Chivas are back, baby. No more fuera Vucetic on Twitter. I'm happy with this result.
At least for this week.
At least for this week.
No, I maintain my stance on Buse. I don't expect Chivas to look pretty. I know. You know, it's a big expectation from a lot of fans. They want to see a more consistency, at least in that aspect of the team of see Chivas play a certain way or be more aggressive. I'm not expecting it. I think he's gonna keep grinding results. I think he's a pretty smart guy. He's gonna do just enough to get the team in Liguilla and not having to risk stuff. And that's where he'll, same as last season, where he team did way better in Liguilla than how they were doing during the league. You know, and even if you see how they played Santos, because those two games were against teams that were more consistent than Chivas, and eliminated America and then put a really good fight against Leon. So I think I much prefer that, Jaime. We went through the Chivas history of Liguilla, and it's abysmal. Going two, 3 seasons of not qualifying, sometimes 4 or 5. And so for me, the most important thing as a Chiva fan is that the team is always qualifying. Then once Chivas is always qualifying, build from there and slowly improve or to the point where you're fighting for the campeonato on a more regular basis. But but to me it's like just become a Liguilla regular again.
Yeah, some of my thoughts from the game. Right from the kickoff, you felt a different energy. You felt a different intensity from the team. And you kind of felt like, okay, they know that we're upset with them. And this is their response. They definitely had a fire under their ass. And Leon didn't really look good out there. And also, definitely my respects to Gudinho. He doesn't look like, fresh legs Bambi out there. He actually had some pretty substantial saves in that match that ended up, being game changing saves. That it could have easily tied up. It could have easily gone the other way, but he had a really great performance. Certain players, though, I'm not sure why they're lining up. I have to make sure that people know, like Angulo, Torres, Lalo Torres. Who else? There was one more out there that Pollo with the own goal just makes me miss players like Hector Reynoso, because although like he was limited and he wasn't the best player, but he was solid, man. He would just boot the ball up the pitch, and that's better than having own goals or just having doubts, especially if you're one of the last defenders.
Yeah. Um, and you're talking about Pollo. There was talk about that big locker room fight, or
Oh,
not
that's right.
fight, but confrontation
With
between
Macias.
Macias and Pollo, and so you think that had a positive effect, where it's like the locker room was sort of like, okay, enough of this. We need to get our shit together. This isn't acceptable.
Well, whatever altercation they had, they both ended up scoring. So Chivas scored all 4 goals. Leon obviously having that campeonitis where you won your title, and now it's all right. We can kind of relax when there's 12 teams going to Liga. We can squeeze our way in and then turn it up there. Chivas dramatically went from 17th position to 11th, and just with that victory. So just goes to
They're back in.
yeah, just to show you how volatile this Liga is. It's crazy, man. One week you're the villain, the next week you're a hero, and then it's just every week it's like what are we gonna see? Who's gonna be the headline this week? And that's just how it is, man. It's a cutthroat dog eat dog type of mentality. It's really intense, and I don't think it's cut for everyone. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and it's because it's short season, so you have less time to um to improve. I would say,
I mean we're almost a third of the way in. That's kind of
yeah, five
crazy.
games.
Yeah, I mean we're on match day 6 come Friday. I mean that's how fast this season is. It's like that's why I go on Twitter and say "fuera," because it's like, yo, we don't have time to lose to Juarez. We don't have time to lose to Atletico. But I think another thing is too, Chivas don't know how to break the bunker. Leon were not a team they were playing offensively, and Chivas do very well against those teams. And it just goes to show, it's like boxing. Styles make fights. If you play a very defensive team where they all 10 players are behind the half yard line, Chivas don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to break through that. So it's like when you play the big clubs that are offensively powerful, that's where you start to see these results. Like, huh? Wait, you guys beat Leon, but you couldn't beat Juarez? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the whole thing, though. They don't have to break the bunker. It's not like they're forced to do it. So I think that because I've seen that sentiment that they only play well against certain teams. That season they beat those two teams. Uh, talking about uh, Juarez and San Luis, and then this season they lost to them. And we got to see also that these teams change coaches. So, and we talked about how Juarez had Tena, who pretty much knows Chivas inside and out. And so I think that was a bit of a, it was a help. Uh, this guy's new. I think some Uruguayan with San Luis. My verdict's still out on him,
Oh
but
yeah.
I think that gives it changes things a bit because we expect we have these expectations of like we have to beat these teams or they're easy, but it doesn't always play out like that. But the whole bunker thing, I just you don't have to, it's like they're not forced or they don't have to play into it. They don't have to like play into the whole we're gonna go and open up and let you guys counter on us.
Yeah. Going over match week 5, Atletico San Luis kicked things off on Thursday. I saw the last 10 minutes of the match. Tijuana were cruising to an easy victory, 2-1 over Atletico San Luis. And in the last play of the game, San Luis tied the game up, stole 2 points away from Tijuana. It seems like there's some different energy going on over there. They're not, letting all these teams just step over them. They're fighting. They're being competitive. They're in 14th position now with 4 points. Tijuana are in 6th position with 9. They would have loved to have won. They would have stayed in first place, but both of these sides are doing much better than they did last season.
Yeah, and I must say again, it's they're changing coaches, So Atlético San Luis brought in Leonel Rocco. So yeah, let's see where this dude is from. It's Uruguayan. Where was he at?
Rocco San Luis.
Played in some small team in Uruguay.
I'm
But
telling you,
he
man.
took that small team called Atlético Progreso y Plaza Colonia. He took him to Libertadores.
Oh, interesting.
Um, so seems to be an up and comer, and it could be if he could be the next Liliani, man.
I
Brought
saw.
in a coach that's really good. But
I,
we'll see how he does. But
I got excited because it had Barcelona, but it's Barcelona of Ecuador.
he was with them.
He was a goalkeeper coach,
Oh, okay.
Plaza Colonia, and then, like you mentioned, Progreso. All these clubs, man, never heard of before. Uruguay is such a small country. I think their population's like what, like 2-3 million? Like it's
Yeah, like 2-3 million. But I mean, when you talk about their league, it's Nacional and Peñarol.
mm-hmm.
Then you have like Danubio, and then you don't really hear much of the other clubs. But he took a really small team, you know. Um, so who knows, man? We'll see what this dude. We'll see
Yeah,
what this
definitely.
dude is made of.
Another small club, Querétaro. They are continuing to beat down Pachuca. Pachuca having a really bad season. They ended up winning comfortably 3-1. Yeah, not sure what's going over there in Hidalgo, but it is not good for Pachuca. They are in second to last place, right above Atlas with 2 points. Meanwhile, Querétaro with this are in 7th position with 9 points. They've won 3, they've lost 2, so they're doing okay. They might make Liguilla this season. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Let's see how the season. I mean, like you said, 2-3 games can change, the whole landscape.
I had forgotten that Antonio Valencia is at Querétaro. He ended up scoring one of the goals. He used to be, him and Chicharo were really close friends, I think, when they were both at Manchester.
Yeah, and that's the thing with some of these small clubs in Mex that they could from one tournament to the next change drastically just because they could end up picking up the right coach or the right players, and all of a sudden they go from last place to being a mid-table team fighting for the first spots. And yeah, that's what we're seeing, and we've seen it in the past with the different
You
teams.
know who's their coach? El Piti
Querétaro?
Altamirano.
Man, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Man, remember all those years he played for Santos, El Piti, and
He went to Italy.
and at one point he actually ended up
I think.
playing for Mexico. He went to Italy. When?
Yeah, but brief stint.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know
yeah,
that.
brief stint. I don't even know if he played a game, but he went to I think was it Atalanta, like a
Interesting.
small club. Yeah.
Yeah, no, man, it's not showing up anywhere. That's
Wait,
definitely.
the PT?
Yeah, no. Maybe
Alternate universe?
no, I mean I believe you. It doesn't show up anywhere. So I wonder. I know Layun went to Atalanta.
Yeah, from Veracruz.
But yeah, that's a name you hadn't heard in a long time. Uh
Wait, is we talking about the Mexican one, right?
yeah. Yeah, he played for Cruz Azul. That's where he started his career. Santos, San Luis, Morelia, Tecos, Correcaminos, Veracruz, Querétaro, and then Cruz Azul Hidalgo. And then he's been, as far as coach wise, he coached. He was assistant at Querétaro, and then he went to Cimarrones de Sonora. Then he was Costa Rica assistant. What? Celaya, and then Querétaro. Wow, not bad. Going over some more results. Cruz Azul on the road beat Necaxa 2-0.
Okay, here it is. He played for Cremonese.
Cremonese.
He was there for 8 months, but he never debuted.
Oh, wow, man, that is some deep.
Here's a comment from him. Al final no se dio. Te soy sincero, no sé por qué. Todo parecía que iba caminando bien, pero
Wow.
fue una experiencia entre 6 y 8 meses que me ayudaron a crecer, reconoció el Piti a medio tiempo.
I'm looking at a
And
tweet.
he was Matosa's assistant.
Check this out. So, when they were announcing Chucky to Napoli, somebody in the comments said, "Hey, El Piti was also in Italy," because they said, "Oh, it's like Layun, Rafa Marquez, Salcedo, Moreno, Pedro Pineda." They were naming all the players that had played in the Calcio,
Yeah,
and
very few.
and he's like, "Hey, don't forget about me." He said, "Yo estuve 9 meses en el Cremonse, pero no fui registrado." 1994.
Yeah, and back then it was more difficult because less foreigners. They didn't line up like today where it's like they line up to 10. So before it was way less. They would have like 3 or 5 or whatever. Um,
I love technology because I grew up like watching all these legends on TV. Like when I think about, Ramon Morales, Ramirez, Suarez. I mean, all these like legends that I saw them win titles with Chivas. They're just a tweet away, and they're like, "Oh, thank you." Like Ramon Morales, like I follow him, and you can tweet at him and be like, "Hey, man, thanks for the comment," And it's like, "Yo, that's fucking crazy, bro." Like,
yeah, they'll reply a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times you could.
You know,
Or they'll chime in on stuff.
you go to a Partido Molero in Oakland, and you see them outside in the Home Depot booth, and you're like, oh shit, pinche matador, ¿cómo estás, güey? You're all drunk and shit. You're like, yo, I used to watch you on TV, man.
I know that's sad for them. They're outside of the stadium, you know. It's like they use
They don't
like
even
the
get
stadiums that
they don't
where
even
they
get
go to the
tickets to the
stadium.
game. They're outside, parking lot pimping the whole game, the whole before and after
It's
the
like
game.
it's like if the stadium is the club. They went from being in the club in the VIP table with bottle service being to waiting in line outside, not being allowed in. Just
Not even. They're over there like, asking for spare change and shit. Like, oh, get it.
in the parking lot,
You're like, what the hell, bro? Like, what
drinking in
happened?
the parking lot, dude. Yeah, nah, it's they do get in the games.
Yeah. I know
I
they do.
seen
I was just
I
kidding.
saw it was Osvaldo Sanchez,
Oh, wow.
and he was in one of those booths. I forgot which. And then like almost by halftime, I saw him in the press box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just went in there to see the game for a bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess those companies have like they have like suites or like luxury boxes. So, they let them have access to that.
That makes sense. Very quickly. So, yeah, we mentioned Necaxa losing to Cruz Azul now. Cruz Azul is in 4th position. Necaxa in 16th. Then we had Atlas and Santos on Saturday. It was a 1-1 match. Similar to the San Luis game. Santos were winning pretty early in the match, 10 minutes in. And then last minute, Atlas steal 2 points away, tie the game up. And they're still in last place, but they definitely will be proud of taking those points away from Santos, who are having a good season. They're in 5th with 9 points. I think there was a joke about how haven't they been relegated all these years, but they just do just enough to stay
Just
alive.
enough, and the rules change. I know people were clowning on like saying that the league would change the rules to prevent Chivas, but I mean, Chivas never needed that. It was Atlas has been the team that's benefited the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Roger Martinez, that's a name I hadn't heard in a long time, came back and scored for America 1-0 over Puebla. And America are in 3rd. Pretty good start to the season for them.
No, look, making my prediction look bad. I'm not selling though. I'm holding on. I'm holding on to that prediction stock, Jaime.
I'm trying to see when we play America. It's gonna be a minute. Yeah, they're gonna have it in match week 11. So we're still about a month away before El Super Clásico. But we'll make sure to humble them that time. Monterrey beat Pumas 1-0. Chiqui's not with us tonight, but not a great game for Pumas. Ake scored in the 31st minute, and then Alan Mozo had a red card like 6 minutes after. So they were a man down for most of the game. And Rayados, man, Aguirre taking them to the top. They're in 2nd place, 10
Was the
points.
game less, right?
Huh?
One. They still have one game to play.
Yeah, that's right. The COVID, yeah, they still have a game in hand, so they could easily be in 1st place with 3 points ahead if they win that match. I know it's been rescheduled, but I'm not sure when that will be taking place. That's the same with León and Tigres, obviously, because they're in Qatar. So there's a few teams in the league that haven't played their 5th match yet. Toluca and it sucks because it was a very entertaining match, but nobody watched it because it was at the same time as the as the Tigres game. They
I
beat.
understand that meme now,
Yeah, I'll make sure
which
to
I'm not
update.
gonna repeat.
Yeah, it was a pretty great game to watch. To be honest, Toluca. Something about Sunday at 10 a.m. and Niesmo Diez is just a nice thing to wake up to on Sunday morning. Toluca, they wasted no time. 19th minute, Alexis Canelo, and then in the 30th minute again from him, and then in the 35th minute, Ruben Sambuesa, him and Chapo Sanchez are going to have to fight for the goal of the week because they were both screamers outside the 18-yard box, just smashed it. And Mazatlan were getting beat down. Again, nobody watched it because everybody's watching Tigres beat Palmeiras. But it was a very, very, very entertaining match. Make sure to watch the highlights of that one. That was pretty good. And then the
Yeah.
Leon Chivas game. One last thing. I don't know if you're pressed for time, but we do have a little bit more of a story that's developed alongside the Matias and Chile.
Oh,
It turns out that he went to Buenos Aires and he was gonna go to Santiago to negotiate. Because they were very serious. This is very close from happening, but for some reason, they did not want to pay the release clause to San Jose Earthquakes, and they even asked Matias if he would go halvesies with them, and he said no.
what? Well, I think that would have been the first thing discussed, though. Don't you
Right?
think? And that's why I don't buy the story, because I think Chile would have, Chile FA would have contacted Almeida's representative,
Mm,
and they would have been like, okay, he's at San Jose. What's his availability? It would have been, well, you know, he has a release clause that needs to be activated. Chile would have been how much? And you don't hear South American national teams paying to bring a coach. Um, I don't I don't remember when Bielsa left Espanyol. I don't know if they had to buy out the clause, but you don't really hear about it, and
that's true.
especially not Chile. And at that point, it would have been like, oh, no thanks. Uh, unless they would have said, well, if he wants to. But I really thought Chile would be able to pay him what he's earning.
Oh, you
It's
think
more of a
so?
like, yeah, man. A lot of these selecciones, they don't have that much money.
Hmm.
Um,
They're kind of just playing for the clout, because Chile's a
yeah, we
respectable.
just you get the international cloud of like,
Okay.
it's almost like, hey, we're doing you a favor.
Yeah.
You could play Copa America qualifiers and maybe even a World Cup, and that would definitely elevate Almeida's prestige, and then he could jump to Europe. But that two
Yeah.
million, man, that's hefty, and that's the thing when I don't get why Mati would, why he took that. It seems if all these rumors are true, it's only hurt him, you know, that he went to a small club like San Jose and then they tied him up with this, and the only reason they could tie him up is if they're paying him like a lot of money, you know, because
Yeah.
at that point it's like we didn't pay you all this money so you could fuck off after a year, you know. So it'll be like if we're giving you this much, then it's a serious thing where you're gonna be with us 4 years, and if you leave, then we're getting some of that money back. And so I think that he's making bank. At least for coaches, I think I think I had read in an MLS forum or something that he was one of the best paid,
I believe
of the
it.
league. And so yeah, that's whole getting close thing. I think it puts his name out there, but I don't I don't think it was as close as we're led to believe.
Mm. Yeah. It's. I'm sure all the San Jose fans are just at this point just so fed up with all the, you know,
He should get used to it because he
he's
did this at
going to
Chivas.
Rayados, he's going
Remember?
here, he's going back to
Yeah.
Chivas. You know, it's like he's not going
When
anywhere.
Chivas too, remember? Oh, Sunderland is interested. Ecuador is calling.
Oh yeah.
A team from La Liga. And there's all these teams that kept popping up. Some Argentine team. And I was like, it's a bunch of BS. Nothing happened. He ends up in San Jose. And so let's see. Let's see what happens now, finishes or whatnot.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. MLS still has yet to announce their schedule, so we don't know when they're going to start playing. Someone like Carlos Vela, he's probably enjoying the NBA right now. As far as Chicharo, who knows what he's up to? I think he's been
playing Call of Duty.
Chiquis
could tell us, but he's not here.
Getting massages.
I think he was getting in shape. There was that one picture where he's like, he looked, he lost his dad bod. He was beginning to look like like an athlete again.
Yeah, I'm sure he's training right now. Now that he's single again. I'm just but yeah, those are the big three tonight's episode with Liga MX, Tigres in the final, some Matias stuff. You got any other pressing topics or closing thoughts you can think of?
Just best of luck to Tigres against Bayern. I think I'm hoping it will be a really good match, and not one of those you end up getting squashed. I think I hope the club and the players they treat it as like just very like a World Cup game, because it's not often they're gonna get to be in that type of game. So I do think they go balls to the wall, man. And I've seen Bayern tweeting stuff, making it friendly, and it's like, no, you you want to go in there as like, war zone, man. You're in there to fight. I seen some of
It's the
those tweets where
gulag.
they're like, "Oh, we see you there," and blah blah, and it's like, no, man. I want putazos and sangre. I want like a UFC, man. Don't none of this friendly banter.
Absolutely. It's kind of like the Super Bowl, it was underwhelming. Everybody thought it was going to be a great matchup, and then it ended up just being a blowout. I do think that the way Tuca plays, or, tactically, I think defensively they'll be sound. Offensively, it's just a matter if Gignac is going to have his shooting boots on. And, I mean, just going off of his performances in the last 2 games, again, 3 goals. Maybe if they get a penalty, again, I think Tigres might win this thing, man. Who knows? But then again, it's just like the talent
And
of Bayern is so
you always
ridiculous.
want like one other player to step up, because everyone will probably all eyes on Gignac, and you want like some other dude to just come out of the shadows and steal the show, and that helps too a lot of times.
I just found the most accurate photo of the map. I put it in the Discord chat. It's the what was that movie with MJ? That movie where he's a cartoon. Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Yeah, so it's like, it's like the big ass, evil guys, all the Kimmich, Neuer, Narby, Sané, Lewandowski, and then it's like Gignac as Michael Jordan, and everybody else is just like
cartoon. They're on like a Looney Tune cartoon.
Yeah, he's just putting the team on his back, man. It's just what he's doing, and
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I will say this: Salcedo has a very good record against Germans. He beat them in their Pokal
the cup.
Cup, Iron Frankfurt they beat Bayern Munich, and then
Yeah, that's
in the World Cup, and then who
they beat them
knows?
again.
Who
That's
knows?
good. Yeah, yeah, and it helps. Definitely, that stuff helps. You know that having players like that they don't become overwhelmed. They're gonna face Bayern, and it's like, oh snap, and he's like, hold my beer because I've gone up against these dudes.
Absolutely. Well, another successful episode here in the Cantina MX football podcast. Sadly, I don't think our listeners had any chats for us to shout out, but thank you to all the listeners and subscribers. And make sure to follow us on Twitter. And if you have any pressing topics or anything that you guys want to get off your chest, make sure to land on our Anchor page. You can leave us a voicemail and we can listen to it. And maybe you'll be on the next episode. But thank you, everyone. And I hope y'all have a great night. All right.
Hey,